guys, I'm Heather, and I'm the oldest. And she's the emotional one.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Pollyanna, 1 second. I'm gonna pee.
Hey guys, I'm Ben. I'm the middle child.
And he's the practical one.
Oh, I'm pragmatic. I take my favorite song and I'm willing to cut it.
Ew, get off the cross. You're not the only one who did that. I'm Beth, and I'm the baby.
She's also the swing vote.
You had one job. What did you say? What did you say? What came out of your mouth?
Together, we make the Music List podcast. Welcome to this episode of The Music List. I'm Ben Dye. With me are my sisters, Heather and Beth, and today we're going to take on a very interesting topic, one where I think it is possible to bring in so many different genres, though I'll be honest with you, my list kind of weighed heavily in a direction I didn't know it was going to go in until I started making the list. But we're talking about the best frontman, and we decided to make this one all males. We'll come back and we'll do all females at a later date. So the best male frontmen in rock and roll, but there's a lot of different kind of subgenres of rock and roll. So when we talk about a frontman, what makes a great frontman?
Okay. I think it's someone who is engaging to the audience. They have to take the audience from beginning to end of the show, keep everybody energized. Voice is a huge part of it to me, but that doesn't necessarily, to be the best frontman, I don't think you necessarily have to have the best voice, because it's more about your showmanship to me and your ability to connect with the audience and keep them engaged and energized. I actually did this scientifically before I built a spreadsheet, and I had 10 aspects of what it means to be a great frontman, and I took everybody and I ranked them 1 to 5, and then after I ranked them, I realized I didn't like the way it ended up, so I redid the whole thing.
I put mine on some notebook paper.
That is actually the opposite of scientific.
It was scientific for a minute. It was scientific.
I did it,
okay?
and I just trashed.
It was mathematically sound, and then I just didn't like it,
Are
so I
you saying
redid
that
this
that's
list
the way
5 times.
science works? You run an experiment,
No.
if you don't like it.
I'm not saying, no, I am not claimed to be a scientist.
It does kind of go that way sometimes.
But anyway, so that's kind of what it meant to me. You know, I did have those 9 characteristics in mind when I reordered my list 5 or 6 times. So energy, fashion sense, voice, sex appeal, even because you can think about rock and roll. I mean, that's an aspect of it. So that's where I went.
I had 3. I had voice. You know, I think that's an important aspect of what we're talking about. 2 is your crowd interaction or your charisma, which is not the same thing as voice. I mean, your charisma to be able to draw a crowd in and engage the crowd. And then you said fashion sense. I kind of had style. You know, is it a recognizable style? And so I kind of had those 3 things in mind, and it meant that some people that one of them may be rather low on the list in comparison to others, and so they kind of dropped down, and some were maybe not the best at any of them, but they ranked real high in all 3, and they were like, well, there they are. So those were my 3 things. Heather, what do you think of when you think of a great front man? What are the characteristics that you're looking for?
My first criteria, and most important for me, was a command of the crowd, because really, at the end of the day, that's what it is. You are taking these people on this ride with you, and you're driving the train. So people that could really engage an audience. A lot of people came to mind, and I had to differentiate what a front man was, because a lot of people would come to mind, and I would say, no, they're really more of a solo artist, even though they have a band behind them. So there were some artists that I took off of my list because the focus was really on that one performer, and tried to really limit it to people who were a cog in the wheel of a band.
Yeah.
And of course, vocal ability, because, you know, to have enough stamina to perform and perform well and to please the crowd night after night after night.
You know, and it's funny that you mentioned that because I contacted you guys. Now wait a minute, we got to clarify this, because if we don't, Prince will win everything,
Sure.
right? I mean, because Prince is that good.
He is
You know,
that
and so
good, yeah.
so we had to say, okay, are we talking about like traditional bands? Because Prince always had a band, and you know,
Yeah.
it's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but
Right,
really people think it's Tom Petty.
I
and,
tried to keep away from the and thes.
you know, so okay, so we kind of have that under wraps, and so the mom as my witness. This is the way that the vote went down, or the draft order. Ben gets first pick, Beth gets second pick, Heather gets third pick. I actually like picking third. That's
Okay.
my
Yeah,
favorite spot.
yeah, I'm okay with that.
That's fine.
But so I'm going to pick first, and I pick Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin.
Solid.
Just the guy is. Those uppers are just phenomenal, unbelievable. I think he is. I don't want to say the undisputed king of frontmen, but he is so good, and none of it's really gimmicky. You know, like there are a lot of frontmen that are great because they're kind of gimmicky. Like David Lee
Yeah.
Roth is kind of gimmicky. You know, he's goofy and jumping and kicking his legs, and
Yeah.
But Robert
Yeah.
Plant is just, you know, when you think about some of the guys that defined the rock god.
Oh yeah, he's the golden god.
You know, he's, you know, you got him and Morrison and some of those guys, and I think Plant's vocals put him
Yes.
over the top. And so for me, he was number one. Vocals, style, charisma. Arguably the greatest rock vocalist of all time. That's another conversation that would be. I said arguably. I said arguably. The power, the unique voice. It was original for the time. I think a lot of people kind of came over the top of him and tried to emulate that. Really diverse. And we see that with, you know, he had a set of duets with Alison Krauss that were just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I think you can see his influence on guys like Sebastian Bach and guys like Guns N' Roses, you know, with Axl Rose and guys that came after him. So to me, his interaction with the crowd, you know, swinging the microphone, that was kind of, you know, to me, he just tops out the levels on all those three things:
Yeah.
style,
Rock
charisma,
star, yeah.
and vocals, and that's why I have Robert Plant number one.
Yeah. And with Led Zeppelin, there's so much instrumental time.
Yeah.
And Heather and I, from experience, when it's guitar solo time, sometimes it's easy to look really awkward and like, all right, I'm just waiting to come back in, guys. But he, you know, can interact with the crowd. He can interact with the guitarist. He still is engaged in the performance, yet he doesn't take away the spotlight from his bandmate in that moment. I think he does a really good job of commanding the stage at all times without stealing the moment from other people.
And I think a lot of times what we see out of him is he actually uses his star power to highlight somebody like Jimmy Page.
For sure.
Yeah.
He would go over there and he would point to Jimmy Page and get everybody's attention on.
Just stand over there because everybody's going to be looking in your direction anyway. I mean,
but that's using
his posture and
that's
swagger.
using-
Yeah.
That's using his position of authority to highlight somebody else.
As a singer, I'm glad that you said that there is a position of authority in a band. I enjoy that. Okay.
I'll pass that along to my band. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah. Gross. My band's probably listening right
You're
now.
right. Oh, it's my pick, isn't it?
Yep.
Are you done?
I believe that's true. Yes.
Great. Okay, so my first pick is Mick Jagger. Hold on, let me write it down, then I'll tell you why.
Also solid.
Yes. I know, that's why I picked it. All right, so he's one of the most popular and influential frontmen in the history of rock and roll. He has an iconic set of moves. There's even a song written about it.
He does.
Moves like Jagger. And one of the quotes I was looking up when I was kind of researching this, a British novelist said, while Elvis made the girls scream, he didn't have Jagger's ability to make men feel uncomfortable. Well, it was like, I'm like, there's no doubt that like your girl's looking at Elvis, sure, but like, is she gonna leave with Mick Jagger? Maybe, truly maybe. And John Bon Jovi says, you know, I don't know how Mick Jagger is doing it. He's got almost 20 years on me, but he runs around the stage as much as I do. He still has he has a long history, and he's still going.
Yeah.
He's still doing it, and
6
he's doing
decades,
it
yeah.
almost better than anybody. He brings in that rebellious nature that was kind of something that, the Beatles were clean, and then you had the Stones, but he wasn't trying to be. He even says himself, "I wasn't trying to be rebellious. I was just being me."
Yeah.
And that's part of what makes a great front man is it's you, but it's turned up to 11, if you will. Yeah. So, and he managed the band since 1971. He controlled their business affairs. So he's not only the front man on the stage, he's the front man behind the scenes, which I think lends itself to he has that position of authority and respect, and everybody's looking at him and following his leadership.
Well, you got all these women doing the duck lips things, and I mean, Mick Jagger was doing that in the 1950s, But I think when you talk about, he's on my list. When I look at the charisma factor, I think Mick Jagger is number one.
Oh.
I think when it comes to pure charisma, I think Mick's number one. I just saw a video today. Actually, somebody jumped on stage with a gun at a Rolling Stones concert, and Richards hits him with a Stratocaster across the head. And he said later on, Keith Richards said that the amazing thing is the guitar stayed in tune. He said, that's the best thing I can say about a Fender. He hit him, whacked him good, man, right across the head. And then he said security was late, and they were coming for Mick Jagger. Mm-hmm. And he whacked him with the Stratocaster, and they just kept playing. Mick never stopped singing.
Yeah, they don't have the best
he
track
saw
record.
it happening. He's kind of dodging and singing.
The guts of this man.
But
security at their concerts probably not.
But he kind of struts like a peacock, so he's kind of hard to hit. I mean, he's a moving target.
Oh, the "Start Me Up" video, in and of itself is iconic. So,
all right, Heather.
Okay, I struggled with this, and I went back and forth. And I went, one thing tipped me over the edge. I picked Freddie Mercury. And I think, again, you said a few weeks ago, sometimes the obvious choice is the obvious choice for a reason. Vocal ability is undeniable. But when you talk about command of an audience, if you watch the footage of Live Aid at Wembley Stadium, packed out, 72,000 people, and when they're singing Radio Gaga, he literally has that crowd in the palm of his hand. If he raises his arms up, they raise their arm up, and within seconds he has them moving, singing, doing exactly what he wants them to do, and they were just along for the ride. He is said to have scientifically the most perfect voice as far as just how it, frequencies and strengths and all of those things. He is an amazing vocalist, and we know that. But just, the persona, but the command of an audience is unheard of, I would say. So that's what makes him number one on my list, but I've struggled with that.
Yeah. On the three, right, the three things that I said, vocals, style, and charisma, Freddie Mercury's like one or two, maybe three on like all of those. Mm-hmm. And I really struggled between Robert Plant and Freddie Mercury for number one.
Yeah.
That was my big struggle. I kind of instinctively knew from the beginning that those were going to be my one and two. I just didn't know which one. Mick had the style, and he had the charisma. I felt like vocally he was not as strong as Freddie and Robert Plant. But what I love about Freddie Mercury is he's so unique, and he doesn't care. It's like it's not forced. It's not like he's trying to be.
Yeah.
I don't want to use the word flamboyant, but he's not trying to be. He's himself, and it comes off authentic, even though he's kind of quirky.
Yeah.
He can come out like in a nudie suit one day, and he can come out in a wife beater the next set, and it just seemed right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just unbelievable the diversity of stuff that he can pull off vocally, stylistically, amazing ballads,
Yeah.
and amazing power songs.
Yeah.
Just he's if he were to be number one at the end of the day, I would not flinch.
I think one of the things that makes him so good is that he had I mean, I just, this is what I gather from watching, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody, but he does that thing kind of like Beyonce, you know, she has her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, and as someone who is kind of a quiet personality in their personal life, I think that he took that opportunity, and it works very, very well for someone who's very talented sometimes, to just leave all of their real persona behind and take on this showman that can just be everything that they're not. And that applies to some other people later down on my list. But okay.
I think you get
pick
another
again?
pick.
Okay.
The return trip.
All right.
Round 2.
This may get some hate, but Diamond Dave.
Yeah.
David Lee Roth. He is silly, and he is over the top, and I think that is what he is known for. Sean was saying not too long ago, if there's a camera, he's gonna find it. You know, and he is always with the audience. He is always, you know, wanting to bring the people along on this ride. He has energy. He has he's not a bad looking guy. You know, he kind of embodies that, you know, I'm gonna rock these spandex and this long hair, and, you know, and to upstage or try to upstage Eddie Van Halen,
The namesake of the band.
is no
But that
small
was David Lee
feat.
Roth's idea to name the
Yeah.
band.
You know, so I think in the 80s, I mean, just for fun and for high energy, I think he was just the best at the time. I mean, we watched the Kimmel performance in like 2017. The guy hits himself in the nose with the mic stand, breaks his nose. He's bleeding all over the place. You know, says, "Okay, I'll be back in just a second." You know, Eddie just kind of playing Panama as we go. He goes and gets himself taped up, comes back, sings the whole thing. I mean, he's gonna go to work, and
Yeah.
he's gonna do his thing, and his thing is a little over the top. And I am very much a David Lee Roth era of Van Halen fan, more than Van Hagar, but I think the music probably was a little more elevated.
Polished.
Yeah. In those years with Sammy Hagar, who is a great performer in his own right, but
And a really good vocalist. I mean, he really is. He's
yeah,
strong vocalist.
but David Lee Roth's voice is distinctive, and it's just fun, and I think that's what they wanted, and I think they got that with David Lee
Now,
Roth.
I'll be honest with you. He didn't make my 9, but here's what I'll say about David Lee Roth. It would be a heck of a concert.
Yeah.
And really, when we talk about a front man, it's who can run a concert.
Yeah.
Who can get you. It's not about the studio necessarily. It's about what makes a great concert.
Yeah.
And the visuals of David Lee Roth, no question about it, make a great concert. You know, I mean, his antics,
Yeah.
while over the top. I mean, Garth Brooks was flying all over the arenas, you know. But
Yeah.
I would agree that you know he was one that I struggled with.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he still, for all of his antics and his silliness and running all around the stage, he still sounds really good while he's doing it.
He does.
He has a lot of endurance, and his voice is good. So that kind of placed him pretty high on my list as well. And I love a fun fact as we can think back to Reba's Cracker Barrel line. So this one's not quite as exciting as that. But David Lee Roth's sister is the creator of the Rockabye Baby Lullaby series, where they take rock music and they make it into lullabies for kids. So I just thought that was fun. Yeah, his
Okay.
sister did that. And it's my pick, so my next choice is Jim Morrison. one of the aspects when I was looking at my qualities was a mystique, and I think he's the top of the heap when it comes to that, because he just had that. It was a persona, but it wasn't. It was him. He was just kind of a weird dude.
Which was real unfortunate for him.
Yeah, it did turn out to be that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he had this wild personality. He has a really distinctive voice, great on the low. He has a good voice. It's not necessarily soaring like Robert Plant or anything like that, but he does have a really good voice, really smooth. He was influenced by philosophers and poets, so he has that really deep thought kind of look to him, and he wore all the leather, and he was kind of that bad boy without being glitz and glam. He was kind of the darker side of that, and so became really an icon. And that's not necessarily what we're going for, but I think he commanded in a different way than somebody like Mick Jagger or David Lee Roth, who's just all over the place all the time.
Different energy, yeah.
Yeah, but he still has command of the room, and he still can take the audience and fill up that what would be dead time, which is death when you're on stage. It's the worst thing ever. And he would just start doing spoken word poetry because that's who he was. You know, I mean, again, he's just kind of strange, but he has kind of the most unique persona and personality of all of the people on my list.
When you talk about three guys that I feel like kind of help establish that rock god persona image, I think it's Morrison, Plant, and probably Roger Daltrey, I think, are probably the three that kind of made that image that everybody else after them kind of tried to emulate.
Yeah.
But he was one of the originals. I mean, there's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, he was himself. He was original. And he's one of those guys, if he doesn't die,
Right. What
so
could he have
early.
done?
Yeah.
Where would the Doors have been? What would his career have been?
Right.
How many hits would he have had? Where would or the other flip side of that is, how much of the mystique of Jim Morrison is because he died so young?
True, you've got that Forever 27.
Yeah, it's in the 27 Club.
Yeah.
So you don't, there's a lot of people who are hot for a while.
That's true.
And then, pew, they go off the cliff, So you never really know with some of these people. I feel like the Doors probably had some staying power, though.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah, it's just, a lot of his mystique kind of I'm thinking of those three that you mentioned, Plant and Roger Daltrey. It's that posture that they take on. It's kind of lean back, shirt open, kind of presenting yourself as a sex object, really. It's just kind of look at me, look at my
They
form
redefined what cool is.
and they're just kind of like, I'm going to come up here, I'm going to do my thing. It's the exact opposite of David Lee Roth and not do the high kicks and toe touches and, it's very, I'm too cool for you.
Okay, we got a suggestion from the peanut gallery that I don't think is going to make the list.
What was it?
Davy Jones.
Oh my gosh.
I was trying not to crack up when I saw it.
That's it. We have a winner.
Yeah, keep that one in the locker. Ba-dum-bum. Okay.
Oh.
So
wow.
is it my pick now?
Yes,
It's my pick.
is.
Okay. This is one, I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this. Because when we talk about it, I don't know that it fits in with the iconic nature of some of the names that we've mentioned today.
I'm intrigued.
Chris Cornell.
Oh.
Ooh.
Okay. Oh, God.
Okay.
I love everything
So,
about Chris Cornell. So.
There's no doubt that I think Kurt Cobain is the most iconic grunge singer of all time, frontman but I think Chris Cornell is better.
Oh.
I think
Far and away.
Yeah.
I think he made grunge and alternative something different. I mean, it just wasn't the same with Chris Cornell singing. The power, there is a lot of Robert Plant likeness in his voice, his ability to go up there and just nail upper registers, the strength and the power in his lower notes.
Just everything.
I know, he's so good.
I think if we're going to be fair, I think that, obviously Soundgarden isn't as iconic a band as Nirvana, but
Right,
I think they were better. And
Oh,
I think Chris
infinitely.
Cornell was a guy that you could have put in a whole bunch of different genres, and most of those grunge singers, I don't think you could do that. I think that they could do grunge, but I think Chris Cornell is a guy that could have gone in and just done a dynamite job in a lot of different genres, and I think it's unfortunate that like Black Hole Sun is the
Oh,
one
right.
that everybody
Right.
points to. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, Jesus Christ Pose is his vocal on that is unbelievable, and it's really it's kind of like smoke on the water for Deep Purple. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the one we're gonna pick for Deep Purple. Really?
As far as
But,
vocal ability,
yeah,
I think he's one of the in the past 10 years. He is probably one of the top 2 in the game.
Yeah, and I
Period.
think in Audio Slave, I mean, this is one of the reasons that I
freaking love
put Chris Cornell in on so high on my list is because he was not only frontman of what I think is the best grunge band, which I think Soundgarden musically is the best, but I think Audio Slave in the post grunge era was maybe better than anybody else. You know, in terms of that genre too, and he was the front man for both of them.
Yeah, that's a super group almost at that
So
point. You know,
I think you know from the mid '90s to about 2010, he may have been the best male vocalist.
Yeah. Oh,
in that period, and that's also here's the problem that we have like with the style points and the charisma. He's not as high as some of the other ones on the list in those eras, but that was also a sign of the times.
Yeah, but he was a beautiful man.
You know, that's a
He
sign
was.
of the. That's the. He
As I
I
agree
tell you
with
what,
that, yeah.
He was.
he could rock no shirt like nobody's business. There's no question about it.
Those eyes.
But you know, it was a time period that wasn't. That was the whole
Yeah.
point of grunge and alternative and post grunge was we're not going to be showmen. We're not going to be, and yet he still managed to completely control live
You
performances.
can't
I mean,
contain
if
that
you've
kind of
seen him
talent.
live,
No,
I
you
mean, the
can't.
guy can just absolutely blow. I mean,
Yeah.
he's incredible. So he's.
I cannot hate on Chris Cornell.
So I get one more pick.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think I'm going to skip my number 5,
Oh.
and I'm going to go because I want to make sure he gets in there. And I feel like my number 5's got a chance to be picked still. So I'm going to go with Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
You have quite the diversity
Yeah.
in your top 3.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and yes, the Bruce Dickinson. Cowbell or no cowbell. But I would say that they may be, and this is going to be controversial too. I think they may be the most influential metal band of all time. I know that Sabbath kind of gets that tag, but I think
That's another podcast.
I think if you listen to metal bands today, they sound more like Iron Maiden than they do Black Sabbath.
I don't know. That's another episode.
Guarantee you, Bruce Dickinson is better than Ozzy as a vocalist.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And energy.
Energy, I mean,
Yeah.
the charisma, off the charts. The vocals are phenomenal. His vocals are incredible. And then, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still talking about Bruce Dickinson,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I use him as an example in my music appreciation classes. When you see how opera influenced metal so much, he has that strong,
Yeah.
incredible range. He's a
You
fantastic
know, like
vocalist.
if you listen to "Hallowed Be Thy Name," he's a better version of Ozzy, singing a song like that. And when you hear him sing a song like "Ace Is High," he's getting in there with Robert Plant and Ian Gillan territory with his vocal ability and songs like that. So I'll be interested to see if my number 5 made the list. I feel like if he doesn't make the list, I'm going to be, because he's almost one of those obvious choices kind of guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I felt like Dickinson he hit all those criteria.
Yeah, he does. He
He
does.
hits the style,
and I think he gets
hits
left
the charisma,
out.
and he hits the vocalist. And I think he gets left out because Iron Maiden doesn't get played on the radio.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. And you listen to them, it's like they're better than Metallica. So, I don't think
Different.
there's any,
Different.
But I mean,
They are
I
different.
think
Different,
I
yeah.
think that as metal bands go musically, they're one of the best.
Oh,
Period.
yeah. No doubt. No
And
doubt.
so, and their music's not like, I mean, if you listen to the lyrics, it's not like, why is this not being played on the radio? I'm in the 80s, I guess some of it was kind of, but I don't know. I feel like as a band, Iron Maiden doesn't get
I think that their
the due that they're
visuals
deserved.
with Eddie,
Eddie?
and everything,
Yeah.
I think that put them in a camp of metal bands that Eddie was that icon, that mascot for them.
Right.
But
I think there was a big fear about Satanism in
Yeah.
the 80s.
And I mean,
and all the
there-
visuals
there are
from Iron Maiden
Yeah, I mean that's
certainly played a big role in that.
yeah.
But
That was a tricky road to walk back in the 80s with,
But I wanted to make sure he was on the list.
Yeah.
I wanted him to be in the discussion for top 5 because I think he's really, I think he hit all the bars.
Okay. That's a good. Oh, now I'm wondering if I should change because I'm next, aren't I?
I'm next.
Oh, you're next. Okay, never mind.
Which
Maybe
makes
you'll hit
me-
one of mine.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm looking at my 6, 7, and 8, and I'm just like, do I go off the rails and go out of my order because I reordered these so many times, but
Because this is your last pick.
this is my last one.
Yeah.
And I think I just, based on, those criteria we have talked about, I think I just need to stick with that. And the person who checked the most boxes for me next that we haven't talked about is Steven Tyler.
That was my number 5.
And
He's on my list. Yeah.
just aside from the fact that I just really love Aerosmith.
I do too.
When you talk about charisma, when you talk about style, energy, the voice. Is insane. His writing is great. So not only does he just sing it, he writes the stuff too. His onstage acrobatics and movements and things like that. And I know people compare him to Mick Jagger a lot because they do have a similar look in some ways, but he really brought that androgynous kind of look. And he was like, yeah, I know, I kind of look like a woman, but I don't really care. Like, I sometimes I want to wear these clothes, and sometimes I want to wear these clothes, and you can forget yourself, he was just that, I don't care what you think about me, I'm going to do me, and I'm going to do it really freaking well. So that's why I've chosen Steven Tyler as my last pick.
And I'm gonna wear these scarves, and I'm gonna still
That's
take
right.
your girl. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, he was Jack Sparrow long before Johnny Depp was.
Well, except
with
he
the
was
style.
modeled after Keith Richards.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I mean, if you want to know how good he is, go to a karaoke bar and watch somebody try to sing "Dream On."
Well, even a cover band.
yeah.
know.
It's tricky.
And-
It's hard.
And that vocal on "Dream On," I mean that.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, goodness gracious,
And
how
I
good
saw
is that?
him,
And he can still do it.
It
Oh,
was
yeah.
I mean, I saw him 9, 10 years ago, and he still hits that money note. Because I was wondering, is he going to change the key? Is he going to cheat it? He did not cheat it, and that was my favorite moment of the whole thing. And just the energy, and I don't know how old he is, but
70 something.
Well, and what's
he looks
really
like he truly does look like a grandmother now.
yeah.
but
He's
one
got
that
that- he's
uses
got
like
that weird
essential
hairstyle.
oils, maybe. And
Yes.
Yeah.
A Eureka Springs grandma.
And of all the here's the thing, like of all the bands, the bands that these frontmen come from, Aerosmith may be my favorite band
yeah.
on
Great
the list.
band.
I love Aerosmith,
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about Aerosmith, and I think you have to credit a lot to the frontman for this, is they have been able, decade by decade, to just roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Here's the way that the music landscape has changed. We're going to tweak our sound just a little bit.
and
We're-
stay together, not change
That's
personnel.
right. And the thing,
Well, yeah.
how many bands are able to do that with the same frontman?
Right.
And so they've been able to kind of, with the changing landscape of music, they've been able, I mean, Jaded,
Yeah.
oh
and
my goodness,
That was
I
what,
mean, it's
the
not
2000s.
I don't really like that era of Aerosmith, but boy, the public sure did, because they bought the heck out of those CDs.
Yeah, well, that was
You
in
know.
my formative listening years.
Yeah.
And I had, I'd always been familiar with Aerosmith because you all had listened to them, and
Right.
I'm picking up on y'all's music taste. But then they had that new release, and then I felt like that was something that it was almost like mine,
Right.
of theirs that maybe y'all weren't necessarily listening to, but it's like, oh, this is my Aerosmith, and because they had those videos on VH1. We've talked about the power of a music video,
But as a vocalist, you go through all those hits, whether it's "Dream On" or "Crazy" or "Angel" or "Back in the Saddle Again." Even if it's a vocal that I think they were trying to give him kind of a day off, on the vocal, he never takes it.
No, he didn't.
He's
No.
gonna make it hard.
Yeah.
He's gonna do something that is just incredible with every single song. And man, I mean, just you're right. He checks every box.
Yeah.
So he's one of those that if he's in the top 5,
Yeah.
because he's in my top 5, I just decided to go outside the box. But yeah, I agree. I mean, every single box of a front man, he checks them off near the top.
He's great.
All right, Heather, it's your responsibility to round
Oh
it out.
my God.
Last pick.
Okay.
This is hard.
Last
I have
pick.
to leave so many people off my list, but I'm going to stick with my choice because everybody else, with the exception of one, left on my list, I've seen. I've actually experienced them, and I'm going to go with Dave Grohl.
Yes! I'm so excited that you picked it.
Okay. In addition to being the absolute, probably feels like the last holdout as far as just real rock and roll left, he is in person. He is so engaging. He is so funny. He is so talented. And you are just right there with him. And the thing that I love about him the most, and there are lots of things that I really appreciate and respect about him, is that he appreciates everybody that came before, and he appreciates where he is and how he got there, and the fact that in his little moment in time, he's still able to perform with the people that influenced him. And he just really appreciates and loves where he is. And you can tell that playing music makes him so happy. And I watched him on a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction many years ago, and he was standing up there, and he's with Paul McCartney, and he's with all of these just greats, and he's playing. He's just in the line of all the people, and the camera pans across him, and he just throws his head back, and you can tell he's just like, oh my God, I know where I am, and I appreciate where I am. And if you watch their concert at Wembley, I mean,
Non-stop.
and I mean, he's on this catwalk that's like the whole length of and he's just running.
Yeah.
And he's playing and he's singing. And so the fact that he has enough energy and the cardio to do what he does and just be with an audience. He is there to experience the audience, I think, as much as the audience is there to experience him. And he always knows where he is, because I saw him in Fayetteville at Barnhill, and he was, talking about the volleyball team and making all these jokes, and he appreciates his life and his career.
Yeah.
And so the audience really connects to him. So Dave Grohl.
And you want to talk about, David Lee Roth breaking his nose and coming back on stage. That dude broke his leg,
yeah.
went and got casted up, came back,
Yeah.
and then built a huge throne so they didn't have to cancel other dates.
Right.
Like, that dude is about the tour. He is about the fans.
Yeah.
And he likes to build other artists up. He's
Nandy.
He's one of the most.
Yeah.
I think he's the unsung musician of our time.
Definitely. And I am very worried about, following the death of Taylor Hawkins,
Yeah.
how that's going to affect him,
Right.
how that's going to affect the band, and it will never be the same. I hope that he can find a way to keep on keeping on. I think that he will,
I mean,
but
he's
I think
experienced
a lot of
huge
loss, yeah.
losses. Yeah.
yeah. So,
And you gotta from a music perspective, you gotta wonder, how much of the fate of rock and roll is on his shoulders.
a lot,
Right.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
The Foo
like we
Fighters is-
said, I mean, I feel like metal's always going to be around, but metal's not mainstream.
No.
And so
no.
the question is going to be how much of mainstream rock and roll rests on his shoulders. I mean, and that is a heavy burden.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about the preeminent mainstream pop music since the 1950s has been rock and roll. And it's dangerous. I mean, it's not extinct yet, but it's on the endangered list.
Yeah.
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 No question. And the Foo Fighters are really one of the last species left.
So, that's
out
a
there.
scary prospect.
So
I love that pick, Heather.
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy that you did
Thank you
that.
so much.
it's going to be hard to whittle this down to 5.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then to rank them after
and then
that.
to rank them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Who did we
Beth,
have that got
who
left
did,
off?
Who did you have on your list?
I had Axl Rose.
Me
Yeah,
too.
me too.
And I had Sebastian Bach. Because Sebastian Bach
Yeah.
is all over the place.
He
The
checks
dude
the boxes.
The dude
Yeah.
is climbing on the fixtures of the stage, and he sounds amazing. And he's running around. He's got his leg up on the monitor. He's everywhere, here and there. You can't keep up with him hardly watching. And he sounds great.
Yeah, he had the best hair in the game too.
Yeah.
I think I don't think Skid Row got a lot of the dudes that they were deserve because they are good. And Sebastian Bach is really good.
Yeah, his voice is
His
incredible.
vocals are incredible.
Yeah.
But I feel like because they kind of got lumped in with the hair bands and they kind of got lumped in with, but they had an edge to them that was more than just glam metal. To me, they were closer to Guns N' Roses than they were Poison.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I think they kind of got lumped in with the White Snakes and the, but
Don't sleep on Whitesnake.
but I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you,
David Coverdale is.
Yeah, it's a good
but
vocal
I'm going to
too.
tell you, I think as a vocalist in that era of that particular genre, Sebastian Bach's in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well, he and Axel's so good.
He is
I
so
mean,
good.
Yeah, and
I
I've seen him live too, and it's a sight to behold. He's got a lot of
what I
energy.
love about it, and as good as Slash is a guitarist, and he's a great guitarist, Axel drives that night train, as it were.
Oh,
He's the engineer, right? Because
if he shows up, yeah.
well,
Right.
Guns N' Roses to me was what sold Guns N' Roses was the attitude behind Guns N' Roses. It was just a punch in the gut. Here they come. You like it?
Yeah.
You can blank off,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's the way they
I've got
felt
strong
about it.
feelings
If
about
you don't
Guns N'
like it,
Roses. Yeah.
tough, here they
Yeah.
come. And Axel drove that train.
Yeah.
He was the one. He was the attitude bearer, and it was a unique kind of charisma. It wasn't we love the crowd. It's you're going to love us by God, or you can get out of here. And to me that was a different kind of charisma, but people loved him for it. People hated him for it. Some of his band members didn't like
They
him.
love
for
to
it.
hate him for it.
You
Yeah.
know. But to me, Axel was unique in a lot of different ways. Great voice, very diverse.
He is credited with having the biggest range.
Yep.
Bigger than
yeah.
Freddie Mercury's. So he's an incredible vocalist.
And Appetite for Destruction's one of the best albums maybe I've ever heard. I mean, top to bottom.
Maybe
I mean, great.
the best album.
And I would say that the best songs were the ones that weren't singled out.
Also another podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Rocket.
Oh.
How good is Rocket Queen? How good is Mr. Brownstone? I mean, those are those
I
may be the best two songs.
wore that
on the,
cassette tape out 3 times.
Wow.
I had to buy it 3 times.
and you weren't supposed to listen to it at all.
No, I knew where the
best I
F-bombs
recall.
were. So I could sit there and write with one hand and turn the F-bombs down. I knew exactly where they
Best
were.
I can recall, Mom and Dad said you weren't supposed to be listening to it at
Well,
all.
I did. So
But yeah, I mean, great album, and Axel's the one driving it.
Yep.
were those the only ones on your
Those
list?
were the only two I had left. Who else?
I had Roger Daltrey.
Yep.
on the list. I felt like from the style standpoint and the charisma standpoint, he's up there with anybody. I felt like vocally he wasn't as strong as some of the others on the list. And then just because he's so good, I had Ian Gillan on the list.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so good.
But
Yeah.
now he's not
So good.
he's not a charismatic icon.
Right.
His style is pretty plain Jane, so he lost a lot of points on those two. But just vocally, he may be better than Plant. I mean, he
Yeah.
is so
Yeah.
good.
Very good.
That's legit.
And it's like I said. I mean, I hate that Smoke on the Water is kind of the song everybody points to.
Yeah.
Because it's maybe the worst single that they ever put out. But it is the one that everybody
Yeah.
learns to play guitar on,
For sure.
which is the thing. But the vocals on that are very vanilla in comparison to the other songs that they sing.
Yeah.
There is a live performance on YouTube. I would highly encourage everybody to go find it, of Child in Time. It's a live performance,
Mm-hmm.
and it just will blow you from the first note. It will blow you away. And then, of course, how we got to know Ian Gillan
Yep.
was not through Deep
Right.
Purple.
Yeah.
We got to know Ian Gillan through Jesus Christ Superstar.
Gosh, he's so good.
He played
He's so stinking good.
Jesus in
Yeah.
that, and I don't know if Gethsemane is his best vocal performance, but it's top two or
might
three.
be, yeah.
It might be his best vocal. So, but I would, if you don't do a deep dive into Deep Purple, if you haven't yet, you need to,
Yeah.
because I feel like that's a band that doesn't get a lot of the credit that they're due.
Yeah.
Not just because of how good they are musically, but their influence on metal is incredible.
Yeah.
It is huge. And I feel like a lot of people just kind of forget about them. When we talk about these great bands, these influential bands, I feel like Deep Purple gets left off. And when we talk about great vocalists, I feel like Ian Gillan a lot of times doesn't get remembered because Deep Purple didn't have the sheer volume of hits
Right.
that we see from Led Zeppelin and The Who and the Rolling Stones. But he was the other one that I had on my list that didn't make it.
I had two that didn't make it. One was Bono.
Very good. Yeah.
He just.
I just don't like you two.
They're not my favorite
I
either,
couldn't-
but you can't deny. You can't deny his.
I just couldn't bring myself to put him on the list.
And the other was Paul Stanley.
Yeah. I thought about that
Listen,
one, too.
for to stand out as a showman in the circus that is a Kiss show
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
is. He's flying over the audience. He is an amazing singer, and he's another one of those artists that had a very a childhood that led him to be very insecure in his personal life, and so he took on that persona of the star child and just became, exponentially more of a personality than his private life was. So,
Are we going to tell the story?
you got to.
You have to.
You got to.
Okay.
You can tell it.
So Heather and I went to a concert with some of her friends, and it was, I believe, Kiss was headlining, and
Skid Row?
the opening act was Ted
Oh,
Nugent,
Ted Nugent, yeah.
and then Skid Row
Without
without
Sebastian,
Sebastian
yep.
Bach, and I made the comment that it's more like Skid Mark without Sebastian Bach in the band. But so this is one of their many retirement tours that they came out of, and they're playing in Little Rock. And Paul Stanley, of course, he's a New Yorker, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's got
Born
that
and
New
raised.
York accent, and he said when they originally made this tour, Little Rock wasn't on the list. And so I said, how can we not go to a place that has rock in the name? And so, believe it or not, that's how Little Rock got on the list of tour dates.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they went to Plymouth Rock.
They probably did not.
I don't think there were probably a lot of places with rock in the name that they didn't make it to on that particular tour. But
I've seen them probably 3 or 4 times over the past 20 years, and he just doesn't show any signs of slowing down.
well,
Born to do that.
so now the difficult time is upon us. We've got 9. We've got to go from 9 to 5.
Working 9 to 5. I think you do it
I'll
twice,
get-
it becomes like a.
I'll
It's a
get-
thing now. It's a
I'll
thing.
get,
Yeah.
I'll get used to that. Okay, so this may be the most difficult one we've ever done.
Maybe.
Although I will say that within the top 6 or 7, I think I agreed with a lot of the choices. The best way to handle this, maybe, is there anybody that we agreed definitely should be in? Like
I have a few that I think, obviously, naturally,
I have 7 that I think should be in the top 5.
No.
I would say, I would put, without question right now, Robert Plant and Freddie Mercury in the top 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
No.
No.
Okay. So those were the first 2 picks. Who was pick 3? Was it Jagger?
Jagger, I think.
Yeah.
Reluctantly, I have Mick Jagger 4, so I'm not going to argue too much about him being in the top 5 because I can't, because he's in my top 5. But man, the more I talk about these vocalists, the more I think, oh, there's so many more
But
better
it's so
vocalists.
more than the vocal.
But it is.
right?
But I mean, when you take into consideration Mick Jagger's control of a crowd, it's tops. It's number
Yeah.
1.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, well, yeah.
And his vocals aren't bad.
No.
They're just-
They're
he has a unique
distinctive.
tone.
They're- yeah.
They are.
I mean,
and
it's-
you know, I always tell myself I don't like the Rolling Stones. And then I'm like, but man,
you do
I,
like
I,
that
song.
I really do like Paint It Black a lot.
Yeah.
And I like Brown Sugar a lot.
Yeah.
And I, you know, and so, but here's like, they've been around for what, 60 years?
Yeah.
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 And so over the course of 60 years, they're going to play some songs you don't like.
Sure.
Right? And, but, you know, I would say I don't like a majority of their catalog, but man, there are some
That's a big
really,
catalog.
really,
Yeah.
really good songs in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got no problem with Mick Jagger being in the top 5 somewhere for sure.
I don't either. He's
Well,
4
obviously,
for me.
I don't have a problem with it because he was my number 1 pick.
And then, Cornell was 4, wasn't he?
Well, I love hear me out. I love Chris Cornell, and if we're talking about the best vocal in rock, I'm with you.
Yeah, I think he's on a different. I think he tops even a different list.
Yep. But I don't know if, as best frontman, and you even said it, when you're talking about that grunge era, that's just not the nature of
So
a frontman in that.
Right. So, but that begs the question: how much of it are we going to play into the era? Because for that era and for that type of music, he was tops.
I don't think he has the energy component that you need.
Put him in the holding room.
Okay.
Put him in the
Okay.
holding room.
I don't. You might not agree with this. I think we should definitely have David Lee Roth in the top
Yes,
5.
I agree.
I would. Oh, he's not on my top 9. Put him in the holding room.
Well,
please.
why did you not put him in the top 9? That was a bad choice.
Don't hold us accountable for your bad choices.
It was the anti-choice. Actually, it was. He's not. I chose not to put him in there.
Okay, fine. How about
Because I think vocally, everybody else is superior. Everybody on this list is superior to him vocally. Every single one, 1 through 9, and the ones that and everybody that's on your list that didn't make it is better than him vocally. Of all the people that we've mentioned today, he's the worst vocalist.
But vocals are only one aspect.
Well, to me, that's a third, and that's a big chunk.
Well, I had 8 or 9. Okay, so the math. If we're talking about, let's get scientific with it again. Okay,
I'm not
fine.
saying he's not going to
Okay,
make
put
it.
him in the
I'm
holding
saying-
room.
I'm
Put
saying,
him in the holding room.
I'm saying put him in a holding cell
All right, fine. Okay,
if he doesn't jump out of it.
how about Steven Tyler?
Ba-dum-bum, psh. I feel like that
Ben,
one.
he was
You're
getting on my
seven.
nerves.
He was 7 on
either
my
that,
list.
either that was a really bad joke or nobody got it.
No, we got it.
So it was just a really bad joke.
I mean, you said it.
Oh man.
You guys.
Y'all, we can't even agree on a top 5. How are we gonna put these in order?
I
Okay.
don't know, but we better hurry.
Yep, we
Okay.
should.
Oh, here's one. Okay, Steven Tyler. I have him in my top 5. He was selected. I think maybe in the top 5 or 6.
He was
No.
7 for me.
7.
He was 6 for me. However, there are 1 or 2 that I. Can we just cut anybody?
Okay.
Like, can we cut? Can we cut Bruce Dickinson?
Oh man.
Oh my God! I didn't realize I'd be going for the throat with that one.
Well, I
It
think
just hurts a little to
here's-
cut him.
Well, sure, it hurt. They're all great.
Here's the problem, because you get to a point to where you're like, I actually think this guy's, you don't think about it till it's time to cut, and you're like, I actually think this guy's better than
Yeah.
some of these other guys.
Well,
Let me ask you this: if you were going to start a band, a touring band, would you start? And you could pick.
I would pick Bruce Dickinson
I'm
because
go-
he can fly the freaking plane.
Are
That's
you
why.
gonna? Are you? Well, that's true too. Are you gonna pick Bruce Dickinson, or are you gonna pick David Lee Roth?
Oh,
I'm gonna pick
what-
Bruce Dickinson.
what kind of band do you have?
10
Yeah,
times
I mean,
out of 10.
this is not-
10 times out of 10. But anything David Lee Roth can sing, Bruce Dickinson can sing. I can promise you. I promise you he can sing it. He can sing it better.
I cannot imagine Bruce Dickinson singing "Jump."
No.
Because that's
We need
Okay.
that.
So
okay.
that argument is.
But on the flip side, I could see like Barney singing Jump. Okay. So so I'm
Wow. Oh wow.
So, I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna leave very disappointed if David Lee Roth finishes higher on
Well,
the
you
list
may leave
than
very
Bruce
disappointed
Dickinson.
because I still
well-
think he sat atop my list at one point.
Mine too.
So, I
I had more criteria than you did to
she had
consider.
like 9. On
I had
the spreadsheet.
like 9.
Yeah, the spreadsheet that she threw out because she didn't like the results.
It's not that I didn't like the results.
I didn't get the answer I wanted, so I'm going to start over.
That's absolutely true.
New spreadsheet.
But that is true. That is true.
Thank you.
But here's another hot take, and I'll say it right now. And I'm gonna say this reluctantly because I'm gonna lose all credibility with both of you. Freddie Mercury, kind of boring.
Whoa. Okay.
Not vocally.
Okay.
Hear me? Not vocally. But he walks around and he goes like this, and he points in the air,
And then everybody
he
else
moves his
does
arms.
this.
He
What?
just, but okay, that's all he does. Like he's just like, oh, I'm on Broadway. Woo.
Oh, my
and he's
God.
great. He's great as a vocalist. But
Oh,
I
my
don't.
goodness. Okay,
I don't
so
see that much
I can't get with you on that.
energy
Exhibit A.
from Freddie Mercury. Y'all are blinded by the voice.
Exhibit A.
I don't even
against
think he's the best vocalist.
Against why we
Well,
need to
that's
cut
'cause he's
David Lee
not.
Roth. That point of view is the person that voted in for David Lee Roth.
No, Heather put him
No,
on
I
the
put
list.
David Lee Roth.
You picked
on.
David Lee
So
Roth?
yeah, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Okay. Okay. Can we cut Dave Grohl?
No.
Whoa.
Well,
What?
Okay. I love him so much.
We got to get to 5 people.
But he was
I'm
my
gonna cut Bruce before I cut Dave.
What?
I'm okay with that.
This is getting absurd.
Okay, listen. Hold
Ladies
on,
and gentlemen,
hold on,
I
hold
want you to thank you for listening to the last episode of the Music List
on.
podcast.
Okay. Let me.
Because
Okay.
we have gone to crazy land.
Okay, I'm the swing vote, and here's what that's my
I know
my
we
shtick.
put that in the intro, but you don't just get to proclaim,
No, I
I'm
literally-
going to be the swing vote now.
Well, I am at this point. If you'll shut up and listen to me, Ben, because we're talking about Bruce Dickinson and we're talking about Dave Grohl, right? That was the last conversation. That was the
Yeah.
last statement that was made.
Okay.
Ben, you chose Bruce Dickinson. Heather, you chose Dave Grohl. I guess I'm the swing vote.
But we also have David Lee Roth in the mix.
Oh yeah.
Well, Heather picked him too, so I guess I'm the swing vote on that one.
Oh my gosh, this is ridiculous.
Now, my choices do not seem to get critiqued so much, so maybe my final two shall go over in
allow
round
us,
five.
allow us to
I was with you for
allow
a
us
second.
to retort. So who are your picks
I was like,
again?
well, my
let's
picks
get
are
serious
great,
with
so.
it.
My picks are great. And if you don't believe it, just ask me. So
You picked Steven Tyler.
and Jim Morrison.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Now I want to kick Jim Morrison
Okay,
out.
I'll cut Jim Morrison.
Okay, 2 out of 3. I won't argue with you because I'm mature.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay, so we got away from that conversation. Okay, so Jim Morrison.
So hold up, you're gonna put. This is stupid.
Jim Morrison is.
And we've still got to rank 'em.
Okay, I said David Lee Roth may be the worst singer on the list. I forgot we had Jim Morrison on there.
Whoa. Okay, that's nonsensical.
You want to talk about
but
boring?
that's fine.
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Is Wow, I am excited. Let's go
I cannot
light
with
some
you.
fires.
Okay. Whatever, it's been cut.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, winner.
Well, then, Heather, who of Ben's do you choose to cut?
No, that's not the way this works at all.
No, it's not. Okay.
How many? We've got 3 for sure. Who are they?
Robert Plant, Freddie Mercury, Mick Jagger.
So we got to come up with 2 more.
Chris Cornell, Bruce Dickinson, David
Oh,
Lee
there they
Roth.
are, right there. Chris Cornell and Bruce Dickinson.
No. David Lee Roth, Dave Grohl, and Steven Tyler.
Okay, I tell you what. If you'll give me Bruce Dickinson, I'll pass on Chris Cornell.
What the heck is this?
What is
This
it? You
not
don't
a-
get the bargaining chips for the final 2 spots.
Well,
Oh, if you'll
thinking
give
back-
me one, I'll concede the other.
Because-
That's not how
because
this works.
thinking back, I'm thinking, okay, from a voice perspective, Cornell is in the league of everybody, but I'll give you on the style and the charisma, he's not in the same ballpark as some of these others.
Okay, give me David Lee Roth. And I'll give you Bruce Dickinson.
You're gonna put
David Lee Roth may not even
Oh
be the
my
best
God.
front man for his own band.
this is.
David,
That's so rude.
we have to have a conversation about whether or not he's even the best front man for Van Halen.
I cannot.
This
We're
may,
gonna have a part 2.
yeah, this may have to be
Okay, we're going to
continued,
join us for part 2.
which may be like 5 minutes long.
No, it won't.
All right. We'll be back. Join us for our second podcast. And obviously, we did not finish this conversation, but you are going to hopefully join us in just a few days. We'll release this startling conclusion to this conversation to see who is going to make the top 5 in what order in just a few days. Thank you for listening to the Music List Podcast.
Thanks for joining us on the Music List podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. She almost had it.